Did you know that more than 1 million cars, every year, end up with serious engine problems due to simple oil-related mistakes? And the scariest part is that this does not happen only to beginner drivers. Experienced people, who have been driving for decades, repeat these failures routinely without realizing they are shortening the engine lifespan little by little. Today, you will discover absurdly common habits during oil changes that silently destroy the engine. Pay attention, because the next minutes can prevent huge losses and headaches that nobody wants to face. One of the most ignored mistakes begins even before loosening the drain plug, draining the oil with the engine completely cold. At first glance, it seems harmless. Oil is oil, right? Wrong. When the engine is cold, the oil becomes thicker, heavier, and slower. It sticks to internal engine walls, accumulates in narrow passages, and simply refuses to drain completely. When draining under these conditions, a significant portion of the old oil remains hidden in critical engine corners. This means that dirt, microscopic metal particles, and accumulated residues stay inside. The result is that the oil change loses much of its purpose. These remaining contaminants act like a constant abrasive material, wearing vital components such as bearings, camshafts, and internal engine surfaces. Over time, even a small amount of sludge compromises lubrication, increases friction, and forces the engine to work beyond what is necessary, drastically reducing its durability. The correction for this mistake is simple, but it requires something many people lack: patience. Before draining, start the engine and let it run for 2 to 3 minutes. Do not rev or drive away. Just letting it idle is enough to slightly warm the oil, making it more fluid. This way, when you drain it, the oil carries much more impurities along. It is a few minutes now that can mean many more years of engine lifespan. Another extremely common mistake, especially among those who perform maintenance themselves or blindly trust quick services, is overfilling the oil. Everyone knows that driving with low oil is a guaranteed disaster. What many ignore is that excess oil also causes serious problems. When the level goes above ideal, the crankshaft begins to hit the oil, mixing air and forming foam. This foamy oil loses the ability to lubricate properly. It does not create the protective film needed between metal parts, increasing friction and internal engine temperature. In addition, excess oil raises internal pressure, overloading seals and gaskets. The result is leaks, premature sealing failures, and in more extreme cases, internal damage that is difficult to repair. This mistake happens frequently in quick oil changes, where oil is pumped in seconds and nobody calmly checks the correct level. Sometimes the technician even checks the dipstick, but does so immediately after filling, before the oil settles in the pan. For a correct reading, the car needs to be on level ground, the engine off and cooled, and the oil must have enough time to fully drain down. If the level is visibly above the maximum mark or if there is foam on the dipstick, the correct procedure is to drain the excess and correct it immediately. Ignoring this is asking the engine to suffer in silence. Another dangerous habit is changing the oil and leaving the old filter in place. Many people see the filter as a simple metal accessory, when in fact it is one of the most important lubrication components. It is what traps dirt particles, metal residues, and microscopic contaminants every time the engine runs. Keeping an old filter during a change is like taking a shower and putting on dirty clothes. All the accumulated trash starts circulating again along with the new oil. In addition, a saturated filter restricts oil flow, reducing supply to critical engine areas. Bearings and shafts begin operating with insufficient lubrication, accelerating wear. It is not rare to find engines with severe damage because someone tried to save money by changing only the oil. The money saved ends up turning into an expensive repair that is hard to swallow. And pay attention. Even those who change the filter may be making another serious mistake without realizing it. A surprisingly common slip is installing the new filter completely dry. Many people do this out of hurry or lack of knowledge. The problem is that, when starting the engine, the oil pump first needs to fill the empty filter before sending oil to the rest of the engine. During these initial seconds, critical components remain without proper lubrication. These brief moments of dry operation usually do not cause immediate visible damage, but repeated over the years they leave clear marks of internal wear. Metal surfaces begin to show typical patterns of excessive friction. It is slow, progressive, and completely avoidable wear. Whenever possible, fill the filter with oil before installation and lubricate the sealing gasket. It is a small detail that makes a huge difference. Another underestimated mistake is performing the oil change with the car tilted or on uneven ground. At first glance, it seems unimportant, but this creates two serious problems. The first is that the old oil does not drain completely. With the car tilted, part of the oil remains trapped in the oil pan, carrying residues and contaminants that will dirty the new oil faster. The second problem appears when topping off the level. On inclined surfaces, the dipstick does not provide a reliable reading. You end up filling by eyeballing it, which greatly increases the risk of running with too little or too much oil. Both scenarios are harmful and can cause significant engine damage over time. In addition, after filling the oil, do not make the mistake of checking the level immediately. Start the engine for a short period, let the oil circulate, shut it off, and wait a few moments for it to settle in the pan. Only then perform the correct measurement. Now we enter a mistake that many people completely ignore: using the incorrect oil filter. Choosing the right filter is not a secondary detail, it is an essential part of the lubrication system. Each engine is designed to work with filters that have exact specifications, such as thread type, filtration capacity, relief valve pressure, and the presence of an anti-drainback valve. When an unsuitable filter is installed, the entire system balance is compromised. A filter with very coarse filtration capacity allows abrasive particles to continue circulating, accelerating internal component wear. On the other hand, an excessively restrictive filter can clog quickly, forcing the bypass valve to open and allowing unfiltered oil to pass through. Physical compatibility is also critical. A filter with incorrect threads or improper sealing can cause leaks and, in extreme situations, come loose under system pressure. In engines that require an anti-drainback valve, the absence of this component allows oil to return to the pan when the engine is shut off, delaying lubrication at the next startup and leaving parts vulnerable during the first seconds of operation. For this reason, never choose a filter based only on price or appearance. Always consult the vehicle manual or the original manufacturer reference. Filters from reliable brands work well, as long as they exactly meet engine specifications. Checking dimensions, valves, and operating pressure before installation may seem excessive, but it is precisely this type of attention that separates a healthy engine from one doomed to premature failures. Another extremely common mistake happens when the driver simply does not understand when the oil filter should be replaced. We have seen this scene countless times. The person makes sure to change the oil properly, but decides to reuse the filter to save a few bucks or because it, apparently, still looks good. The problem is that appearance means absolutely nothing in this case. Most of the time, this filter is already saturated, full of dirt, microscopic metal particles, and residues accumulated since the last service cycle. Pouring new oil through a contaminated filter is an invitation to accelerated wear. All this abrasive material circulates again and directly hits critical components such as bearings, camshafts, and cylinder walls. But how do you know the right time to change the filter? There are clear signs. Performance loss, such as slower throttle response, often indicates oil flow restriction caused by a clogged filter. Excessive or dark smoke from the exhaust can also be a warning that contaminated oil is passing through the system and being burned in the combustion chamber. Strange engine noises, like dull knocks or metallic ticking, point to insufficient lubrication. Even recurring overheating episodes can be linked to a filter unable to maintain proper oil flow, impairing heat dissipation as well. The golden rule here is simple and leaves no room for debate. Change the oil, change the filter together. They work as a set. One without the other completely loses efficiency. And before we get into the most critical mistakes on this list, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This greatly helps the content keep reaching you and ensures you do not miss the next videos. Now let's talk about a mistake that seems small, but causes enormous damage: incorrect oil level reading. You finish filling, close the cap, lower the hood, and think everything is solved. But it isn't. If you drive off without letting the oil circulate, you are operating almost blindly. The new oil needs to travel through the entire system. Fill the filter, reach the crankshaft, move through internal passages, and arrive at the valve train. When the dipstick is checked immediately after filling, the level almost always misleads. Without the engine running, the oil is still concentrated in the oil pan. The reading looks perfect. But as soon as the car starts operating, part of that oil is pulled into the filter and internal ducts, revealing that the real level is below ideal. Driving under these conditions means vital parts operate with insufficient lubrication, suffering constant wear. We have already seen engines with scored cylinders and even seized pistons because someone trusted this first mistaken measurement. The correction is simple, but indispensable. After adding the oil, start the engine and let it run for about 1 minute. This allows the pump to distribute the oil throughout the system. Then shut it off and wait another minute for the oil to return to the pan. Only then perform the correct reading. This second measurement shows reality. If it is low, top it off gradually. Never guess amounts. This process takes less than 5 minutes, but it is exactly the kind of care that separates a durable engine from one that will develop problems much earlier than expected. Another very serious mistake is skipping regular oil changes. Engine oil does not serve only to lubricate. It also cleans, cools, protects against corrosion, and absorbs combustion residues. Over time, heat cycles, fuel contamination, and mechanical stress degrade its chemical composition. The protective film weakens and friction between metals increases. The result of this is sludge formation, that thick and sticky substance that appears when oxidized oil mixes with moisture, fuel, and metal particles. This mixture blocks internal passages, drastically reduces lubrication, and accelerates wear on components subjected to high loads, such as timing chains and forced induction systems. Even vehicles that are driven little suffer from this. Oil ages over time. The additives responsible for neutralizing acids and preventing corrosion are depleted, leaving the engine vulnerable internally. The solution is straightforward. Respect the intervals recommended by the manufacturer, usually between 5 and 7,000 kilometers or 6 to 12 months, whichever comes first. If you drive under severe conditions, short trips, heavy traffic, towing, or excessive heat, the ideal approach is to shorten these intervals. And never rely only on the dashboard light. It serves as a reminder, not as a complete diagnosis of your engine's needs. Now we reach the most destructive mistake of all, using the wrong type of oil. Each engine is designed with specific tolerances, and the oil needs to behave exactly as the manufacturer planned. Viscosity works like the engine's circulatory system. If it is too thin or too thick, everything falls out of balance. These classifications, such as 5W30 or 10W40, are not random numbers. They define how the oil flows when cold and how it behaves under high temperatures. Using oil that is too thin in an engine that requires a more viscous one can prevent the formation of an adequate protective film when the engine is hot, increasing internal friction and wear. On the other hand, oil that is too thick in modern engines overloads the pump, especially during cold starts. Lubrication takes longer to reach critical points like the timing chain and turbocharger, causing dry wear that accumulates with every startup. Climate also matters. In cold regions, oils with lower cold viscosity flow better. In hot environments, more stable oils maintain thermal resistance without losing protection. And never forget, oil is cheap. Engines are not. Use the correct grade, respect the environment where you drive, and your car will reward you with years of reliable operation. If this content helped you, tap the screen, explore more videos on the channel, and keep learning how to avoid simple mistakes that cost a lot.